Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rishikesh Gare. I'm the CEO of Wi-Fi Soft. Today, we are going to discuss very important topics about Wi-Fi in general. Up until now, I think we've been focusing on some of our products that we sell in the Wi-Fi market. But this training session is going to be a little different, and it will be a lot more technical in nature, and you're going to learn a lot of things about how Wi-Fi works and what are the basics of Wi-Fi networking. Many of you are in Wi-Fi domain for a long time and may know some of these basics. But it's important that, as you know, that whenever you are working with a particular technology, it's important that you understand the fundamentals of the technology very well, the concepts there, and how things work and why they work the way they do. Means Wi-Fi has become so easy to use these days that we really don't have to worry about the technology that is there underneath. But as the people who work in this technology domain, it's important that we understand the basics and the fundamentals of Wi-Fi. So this is going to be, it's more like a training as well, like session or a classroom session, because I'm not going to talk anything about our products as such. I'm going to primarily focus on basics of Wi-Fi, and even before Wi-Fi, the basics of RF. RF stands for radio frequency. So those who are not very keen on technical side, perhaps you can drop off, because it's going to be very technical session, and there may be others who are waiting in the queue. We have more than the capacity that have joined, trying to join in, so we can admit those people in the presentation so that they can learn about the basics here. So there are people who are raising hands here. Can you ask the questions so that our team here can answer it, so I will not get distracted. If it is something very urgent or something you can't hear or there is some problem, I will be happy. You can unmute your microphone and ask me a question right now. Otherwise, I'll continue through the presentation. So let's go. As you know, for those who don't know about us, Microsoft, we are one of the pioneering companies in Wi-Fi domain. We are proud to say that we are one of the few companies in India which is developing technology in Wi-Fi and networking space. And when I say technology, it means very core R&D, and lot of uh, really cutting edge technology is getting built by our team members. So we have almost 15 years experience in the Wi-Fi domain. Our team has extensive experience of building products, designing networks, and understanding the intricate details of how Wi-Fi technology works. So this is our way of telling some of the things that we have learned, and our knowledge. We are sharing our knowledge with our partners and our customers so that they will be more aware of these technology, and they can make informed decisions when they install any networks. So today's topic is going to be RF basics, radio frequency basics. And we are going to delve into a lot of technology, a lot of physics related stuff that you might have forgotten, but it's really important when you're talking about technology or learning the fundamentals of the technology. So let's go through this presentation. The format here would be, there are about 35-40 slides that we have prepared. We'll go through those slides, and then we will open up the presentation for basically question and answers. And we'll try to answer as many questions as possible within the time period. And others, you can obviously write to us, and we'll be happy to answer them via email. So let's go forward and understand what is Wi-Fi and where it all comes from. It's going to be very informative and educative for those who don't know about how internally Wi-Fi works. So a lot of physics and a lot of basic details will be covered in this presentation. So first and foremost, radio frequency, which is RF, which is called, and Wi-Fi works on radio frequency or RF. So before we get into radio frequency, let's understand what type of frequencies are there, and what kind of waves or radios, what kind of different radio waves or what type of different waves are there in the spectrum. So this is called the electromagnetic spectrum. So at the bottom, you'll see that there are a lot of wavy lines, and they go from very sparse to very dense. So that basically tells you that's called the radio electromagnetic spectrum. And different things operate in different spectrum, basically for different applications that we use in our everyday world. There are different types of frequency getting used. So many of you must have gone to a hospital and got your x-rays. They actually work on very high frequencies, whereas beyond that, if you go to a radio, like if you go to a nuclear power station where gamma rays are used, which is much higher than even x-rays. And on the lower side, we all use microwaves to heat up our coffee or something. Those are the waves which are on the low frequency side. And radio waves are one of the lower frequency waves. And so you can see that different applications. Infrared is what you use to control your TV or your AC and so on. So you can see that there are different types of waves out there. Now, radio frequency is one of these type of waves, and they basically are used for in Wi-Fi space for transmitting signal or data from one point to another. Now, this electromagnetic waves are generally created when you have a current. Means we all know that in our electricity board there is current flowing. Now there is some sort of which flows through a medium, like usually a copper plate or something. It creates something called a radiomagnetic waves around it. And these radiomagnetic waves, they travel at the speed of light. So that's why Wi-Fi, when you are, whatever you transmit to the Wi-Fi router, it is actually transmitting at the speed of light, because radio waves travel at the speed of light. Okay. Um, so let's look at some of the characteristics of radio waves. So there are four basic characteristics or main things that you should know about radio waves. One is called the wavelength. The other one is called frequency. Third is called an amplitude, and fourth is called the phase. So what is a wavelength? So a wavelength is basically a distance between two successive peaks. So you can see this. This is called a sine wave, and the sine wave actually is how you will see a signal. So wherever you see a wave, right, even electricity is shown by a sine wave. So the the wavelength is basically the distance between the two top ends of this wave, and that is basically a distance that is calculated, or that is divided into 360 degrees. So we'll get into that later on, but that is basically the distance, and that is called the wavelength. If the wave is more spread out, then the distance is bigger. If the waves are very close to each other, the distance is smaller. So, and then there is a concept of frequency also, and they are inversely proportional to each other. That means the more the distance between them, that means more bigger the wavelength, the smaller the frequency. And the smaller the wavelength, the bigger the frequency. Okay. So this is something very fundamental to any physics lecture that you might have attended. Now, it's important to understand that RF signal gets weakened over a distance. So when this wave, it travels from one place to another, it will start weakening. That means uh, the amplitude or the height of that wave will start reducing. Okay. The frequency will not change. The distance will not change, but the height of that wave will reduce, and that is called attenuation of the wave. Now, you may worry, or you may be worried why all these things are different, because many of you would be working with Wi-Fi technology for years together, but you are still not aware, maybe not aware of what happens, why a certain access point can only go to a particular distance, and why it can't go 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers away, whereas the mobile tower signal can go up to 2 kilometers or even 5 kilometers away. How come the Wi-Fi signal which is used for my point-to-point connection can take the signal to up to a 1 kilometer distance, but if I use a Wi-Fi access point, the signal only goes to about 100 meters or even 80 to 100 meters, right? And we, as a company, when we engage with our partners and our customers, many times we get these kind of questions. I think a lot of people actually ask us, oh, why can't Wi-Fi work for 1 kilometer? I want a one Wi-Fi router that will work for 1 kilometer distance. Now, sometimes it's hard to explain to them because they don't understand the physics or the basics of basics that are there behind this technology. So this is an attempt for you to learn what exactly happens internally and how things work and what kind of physics is involved when we are talking about Wi-Fi. So, which I told you already, higher frequencies. So, as I told you, that as the distance increases, the signal keeps on decreasing, right? That's very simple. Now, you can, it's a very basic analogy that the further you are, if two people are talking and you increase the distance between them, the other person will not be able to hear the one person, right? The same thing happens with waves, with electromagnetic waves as well. So also the higher frequencies, that means if I showed you that there will be higher frequencies of signal, they weaken very faster, like faster lower frequencies. So all of you must be knowing about AM radio, like AM or FM radio, right? The radio transmitter could be about 10 kilometers away, but still you can hear the radio in your car, or even it can be even 50 kilometers away, because the radio signals that they use are on the lower side. That's why they can travel much farther. But you can't have an X-ray, uh, you can't create someone's X-ray by setting the machine 1 kilometer away and asking someone to create an X-ray for you. You have to be right there below that machine. In fact, they get it so closer to you, that your chest, that it is very, very close to you, so that it can actually take the right X-ray for you. So that's the difference, as in as you go to higher frequencies, your distances are reduced. So that what it means is basically your 2.4 gigahertz radio will travel further than the 5.8 gigahertz radio, or we call it 5 gigahertz radio. So even though 5 gigahertz will provide you more bandwidth, and there is some reason for that, but it will not travel as much as a 2.4 gigahertz radio. Now, what is frequency? The frequency means if there is a particular event and how many times that event occurs within a particular time interval, which is usually 1 second, right? So that actually defines your frequency. So when you read about, let's say it is 2.4 gigahertz, okay, we could say that it is your 2.4 gigahertz radio, right? It means that these waves that you see here, there are 2.4 gigahertz, that you can count in that this many number of zeros. It's basically almost 1 billion, if I correct it, yeah, it's 1 billion. 1 gigahertz is equal to almost 1 billion cycles per second. So 2.4, it is 2.4 billion cycles per second. That means so many waves are generated when you transmit a signal from using 2.4 gigahertz. Okay, and similarly with lower frequencies, you will find that the number of signals, or some number of cycles are which are there, like the waves that you see are lower in case of smaller, like one kilohertz means only 1,000 cycles per second. Okay, so you can imagine that you now how fast your that's called the oscillating signal. That oscillating signal is so fast in case of your 2.4 gigahertz, and even for 5 gigahertz radio it's much far higher than that. Now, what is an amplitude? Amplitude is basically the height of this signal, height of this wave. So from here to the bottom of this wave, the line that we draw here, that is called the amplitude. And it tells what is the power within that wave. That means how much strength of that Wi-Fi or that RF signal is there. Okay, so that is basically tells you about the strength. Now the lower the signal, that means when you see on your mobile device or on your Wi-Fi device, you'll see that you get only 1 bar or 2 bar. That basically tells you that you are having a lower amplitude. Your signal, your device is receiving lower signal than expected, or than what you are if you are near to that access point. Okay, and there are two types of amplitude. So you remember that when the RF signal or when this wave travels through the air or through any medium, it starts its amplitude starts going down. That means it starts decreasing in its power. So your transmit amplitude and your amplitude, they are two different types of amplitude. That means at what amplitude, at what height your signal is leaving your device, and at what height, at what amplitude it is being received at your device. So when the signal travels from your access point to your laptop or your mobile phone, there are two types of amplitude which are involved. The amplitude of the signal when it gets away, or when it is transmitted from the access point, that is one amplitude. And the other amplitude is the signal that is received by your antenna of your mobile phone or your laptop. So that is, there are two separate amplitudes that you need to worry about. Now these amplitudes basically decide that whether that signal can be received by your laptop or not. Basically, if you are having too low of a signal, that means the amplitude of the received signal is low, then obviously your laptop, your device will not be able to read that signal. And there are different things. So everything that is in between will contribute to the loss of the signal. So like for example, the cables that are used for the antenna, they will contribute. When the signal travels through the air, that will contribute to the loss of signal. When the signal hits some wall in between, let's say you are having a wooden wall or a brick wall in between, and it goes through that wall, that will contribute to the loss of signal. And ultimately what receives at your receiver side or your on your laptop, that will determine the quality of the signal or the height of the signal. So other thing we need to understand, that antennas that we use in Wi-Fi, sometimes you use an external antenna, or if you're using a indoor access point, then you will have a built-in antenna. That means antenna is included inside the access point itself. They are basically used for amplifying the signal. This lower signal that you see here, it gets increased. The height of this wave is increased when you connect an antenna to this particular signal. Okay. Now there is another thing called phase. Okay. The phase basically means, just a sec, someone was doing certain things with my, please don't draw anything on the board. Although we are giving you permissions, that means you can't draw anything random on the board. So the next concept that you need to understand is called the phase. The phase means when the signal is moving through the air, okay, and there is another signal. That means there are two radio signals going on. Whether when they are traveling in the same direction or in the same path, whether they are traveling with the same kind of oscillations, that means when this one goes up, the other signal also goes up. When this one goes down, the other signal goes down. If that happens, that is called the in phase. Basically your signals are in phase. Okay. Whereas if they are like, if you see the signal here, the second signal that I've shown here is basically a signal which is, this is the main signal, and this is the signal which is in phase of this signal, because they both are similar. Okay. Now all these concepts are very, very important for you, because this determines the quality of your network. as in when you install these Wi-Fi networks and when you actually do site surveys, or when you actually are doing a designing of your RF networks, these things become very important. Now, if your signal is not in phase, that means it's called a out of phase signal. You can see that this wave is not exactly with this wave, and in that case it is going to interfere with this other wave, the main wave. And there is also called with a out of phase with a nullified signal. That means if you look at this wave, this is exactly opposite of this wave. If that happens for any Wi-Fi signal, then it basically nullifies, means your signal basically becomes zero, because this wave, because they are in the same frequency and they are in the same direction, or they are also in the same direction in the same area. So in that case, if the frequency of these two matches and they are out of phase like this, then it essentially means that you are completely out of phase of each other, and it will nullify your signal. And when that happens, you won't be able to transmit, as in you might see even your device is having a good signal, like 4 bars, but because of the interference that may occur, you will see that there is there is going to be a lot of problems in the network. And there is also a concept of multipath, which we'll discuss later on, which is very interesting concept, which these new Wi-Fi technologies have leveraged, so that even if they are in out of phase, how they have made use of it intelligently, so to increase the capacity of your Wi-Fi channel. Now, this brings me to the next thing, which is about the behavior. Now, we have realized that the signal is created, the RF signal is created. Now, when the signal gets transmitted through from the antenna, when the signal is left, what happens to that signal? There are different things that happens to that signal when it is spreaded out from the antenna. Okay, and that is control, that is called the behavior of the RF signal. Okay, and the behavior of the RF signal it will be governed or will be controlled by all these things that I've shown here. It's called absorption, reflection, scattering, refraction, diffraction, path loss, multipath, attenuation, and gain. Now, as I told you, it's this seminar is going to be quite technical, but nonetheless, you'll learn a lot of things here. So what is absorption? So absorption means, it's very simple. Absorption means absorbing something, right? So when something absorbs, let's say you have a water pipe and you put a sponge in front of the water pipe and try to send the water on the other direction. What is going to happen? That the sponge is going to absorb the water, right? And only part of the water will flow on the other side. That's exactly what happens for RF also. When you have something like a wall, the wall is going to absorb the RF signal. So you can see in the diagram that is there, that initially when the Wi-Fi signal, when it went from the router, it had a bigger amplitude, right? The height was bigger of that wave. But when it went through the wall, the height of the wave decreased. So it means that the wall has absorbed the signal, and different material has different ways of absorbing the signal. So I've given you two examples here. The brick or the concrete wall will basically reduce the signal that is transmitted by to 1/16 of the original signal. So if you are having one brick wall in between your Wi-Fi router, on the other side, you will get 1/16 of that signal. So when you're designing your RF networks, I know it now with the lot of new technologies that are coming, a lot of these things people are working towards improving this. Now you may think, if the signal is much, then how come I'm still able to get the signal on the other side of and my laptop is on the other side of that brick wall, and I'm still being able to browse? The reason for that is because your laptop or your mobile devices have very, very accurate or very, very sensitive RF antennas, or the receiving antennas are very, very sensitive. They can get very, very small amount of signal. Even they get a very, very small amount of signal, they can still interpret that signal. That's how this technology is built. Now there's a concept of those who have gone to the US. There's a concept of a drywall. Drywall means it's basically not made up of any brick. It is just made up of some some cement and a very like a special material that they use, that reduces it by half. So you can see that there is a vast difference between a brick wall and a dry wall, or a dry wall, or even you would call it a wooden wall. They call it, if it is a wooden wall. So the absorption by different materials is different. So I told you absorption is leading cause of attenuation or the signal loss. So you can see from this example that the absorption of the signal by different materials leads to a lot of attenuation or lot of degradation of the signal. Okay. Now there are a few other concepts. One is called the reflection. The reflection means how uh, uh, when this particular signal bounces off certain mediums. Okay, so for example, your signal bounces off a mirror or some polished surface, then it, rather than getting absorbed, it may get reflected. Okay, some of the material can absorb, some of them will reflect, so it bounces off. Because of that, the wave which is going in a particular direction actually changes the the wave changes the direction. So I'm not saying that the whole signal is going to get absorbed. Like for example, if you have a torch and if you have a mirror, now if the mirror's backside is open, like that means it's not like a it's like just a glass, then some of the signal from that torch will get reflected, and some of them will go to the other side. So same thing happens if you are having different mediums. Some of it will get absorbed or inside, it will go on the other side, some of it will get reflected. Now, why this reflected signal is important? It's important because it creates something called multipath interference. So I will explain it to you later on what is multipath interference. And some of these multipath interference causes some serious problems for Wi-Fi. Now we'll go to some really other topics. These topics is in context of when you set up a point-to-point connection. Like you know that a lot of places, a lot of ISPs actually set up a point-to-point connection. So in a point-to-point connection, you will find that your signal is sometimes getting what is called as refracted. So that refraction happens for various reasons. If there is a lot of water vapor, that means it's a cloudy environment and there's a lot of water vapor, then your signal will get refracted because of that, and it will go in the other direction. So as you see here, there are two parabolic antennas. So for the parabolic antennas, the main signal needs to go in very straight line like this. But if there is something in between, your signal will get refracted and it may bounce off in other directions. Not now, some of that signal will get refracted, not all of it, right? So means you may be worried that what is shown here is all of a signal sudden, if there is water vapor in the atmosphere, all my signal will go in the other direction. That never happens. But what we are telling you is part of your signal will get refracted, because of which you will not get the exact amount of basically the kind of bandwidth that you need on the other side. Okay, so there are different reasons why the signal will get refracted. The change in the air pressure, water vapor. Basically, for those who know what refraction means or scattering means, it is basically when you we see a sky blue color, right? Basically the sky blue color is because of the scattering of the light from the sun, because the blue light gets scattered by the clouds and the dust that is there in the atmosphere. Okay, I will not get into the, oh, hold on a minute. Okay, then there is something called diffraction. Now diffraction, if you notice what is diffraction, is something like this. If the distance that, or the object that is there between your Wi-Fi signal is a smaller one, then the signal will go around it. Like what you see in a river, there is a rock in between. Then the rock sits in between, and the water flows around around that rock. So same thing happens for Wi-Fi signal as well. So that is called the bending of the signal around the object. So there are smaller objects in your rooms or wherever you are setting up Wi-Fi, or if it is a outdoor Wi-Fi also. These smaller objects, like for example, there is a pole in between, or there is some small structure in between. then your Wi-Fi signal, outdoor Wi-Fi point-to-point link, will actually get diffracted. And because of the diffraction, there is something called like a dead zone that occurs behind that object. So if there is a diffraction happening, sometimes what happens is right behind that object, the RF shadow is created, and that RF shadow is called the dead zone because they not get any signal. Then signal loss. Now signal loss means just by going through the atmosphere, there is a loss of signal. Okay, and it happens, that's a natural thing. It's similar to your voice, like when two people are talking to each other, when they are near to each other, each one of your ears can hear it. But as you go away from each other, you can see there's a loss of that voice signal, right? The voice is also like a wave. When you talk, that's actually a wave going, that's a voice wave, right? That is going, that signal basically decreases in amplitude. So the attenuation can happen for various reasons, as I told you earlier. The RF cable, the connectors that you use, they all cause attenuation of the signal. So why is it important? Because it's important to use the right kind of cables, the right kind of connectors with your access points, especially if you are connecting our external and so on to your Wi-Fi radios. Okay. And most importantly, the distance, as in the distance causes, there is a lot of reason, like basically when there's a distance, automatically the radio waves that are transmitting, they will automatically reduce in the signal. So for those who are interested, I've given here what is the kind of attenuation that happens through different material. And the foundation wall, that means the concrete wall that we use in slabs, which has reinforced, like there is a steel reinforcement and there's a thick layer of concrete that creates minus 15 dB. So again, I will talk about what this dB means. Many of you use this term, but many of you may not be aware of what that dB term means, right? Similarly, a brick wall is minus 12. Told is minus 12 is equivalent to 1/16 of the signal that actually is happening. Means 1/16 of your signal goes on the other side. The metal obstacle minus 10. A rack, if it is there like with the holes in it, minus 6. Glass window minus 3. Wooden door minus 3. Cubicle walls minus 2. So basically you can see minus 3 is essentially your half of your signal will be reduced when it goes to the other side. Okay, so this is in a logarithmic scale. So don't look at it like 3 means half, then how come 12 means 1/16? It's on a logarithmic scale. So that's why it is, dB is usually measured in logarithmic scale. So path loss. Path loss means basically the distance, as I told you earlier. Okay, someone is talking, right? Please mute your microphones. Okay. So path loss means the broadening of the waves. So I'll give you an example of this. Like when you, let's say you are having a water pipe, and through that water pipe you're throwing out water, right? Now, right where it leaves the nozzle, right? That's where it's very dense. But as the water goes into the air, it will spread everywhere. So same thing happens with the radio signal. That means the waves that are going through it, they will keep broadening. Or if you put a stone in a water, you see that the waves that go out of it, they broaden and they spread all over the lake, right? Or all over the water body. So that is called the broadening of the waves. And the broadening of the waves, basically, because of the broadening of the waves that go through antenna, that actually reduces the amplitude and reduces the power of that signal. Okay. So as I told you, you're doubling. If you double your distance, it causes a minus 6 dB loss overall. Okay. Now I told you earlier that we're going to talk about multipath. So multipath means when the same signal arrives to the receiver, means when you're transmitting from your Wi-Fi radio, like from your Wi-Fi access point, and it reaches your laptop or your phone, but the same signal comes from two different directions. Remember, I told you there is a reflection that happens, and right, or refraction that happens, or the scattering that happens. Because of that, the same signal, when it gets scattered, it will arrive at my antenna on my laptop or my this thing mobile phone at different times. And when it arrives at the different times, what happens is that means it creates confusion on the receiver side, because it's arriving at from two different paths. And because it's the same signal, there's a time difference between the two signals, because one will go straight directly from the access point to the laptop, which goes by the shortest path, and the other one gets reflected from other places, right? So these two signals, they arrive here at the same time, means at the different times, which causes the receiver to get confused, or basically is unable to understand which is the right signal, which is the first one or the second one. That is called the phase shifting. Okay, means the same signal is shifted. If you remember earlier in the slide, I've shown what is called phase shifting. So that phase shifting happens, and depending upon whether the phase shifting happens in the like whether it is little bit out of phase or it is completely out of phase, your signal gets or your data gets corrupted. What means, basically what I'm trying to say here is that um, if your signal is in a nullified environment, that means you will not receive anything. Receiver will not be able to decrypt, or will not know what kind of data has come in if it is completely exactly opposite phase, if the signal comes in or exactly opposite phase. So this is one of the biggest problem that older Wi-Fi networks had. Now, many of you may be knowing about a technology called MIMO, M-I-M-O, and it stands for multiple inputs, multiple outputs. And this technology was introduced from 802.11n standard, and now it has become like a de facto technology in AC and the new Wi-Fi 6 standard. Now that MIMO technology actually uses this multipath interference to its own advantage. We'll look at it later on how it does that. But because of that, it increases the throughput. So the engineers who designed this newer technologies actually made use of these multipath interference problem and use the multipath to their advantage of transmitting more data through the wireless medium. But for now, I'm explaining you that this causes a problem. So for those who are of older generation, you might know that in olden days, sometimes on our TV, you would also get like a signal which was like there were used to get two pictures on the signal on the TV, right? It was like shifted a little bit. So old TVs, those who have lost were watching Doordarshan, for example. This used to happen very often. That the reason that used to happen is because of this multipath problem. That the signal that came to your antenna came from different directions and they were shifted, and that's why you are able to see two signals on your TV. So that is also a problem for Wi-Fi as well. Now let's talk about gain. So far, whatever things we discussed were all the negative parts of the Wi-Fi, right? Now there is also concept of gain. Gaining means you increase the amplitude of the signal. That means the gain is like you receive something on one side and you increase the amplitude or increase the pressure of it. So classic example is that the water pipes, like you get water, right? So you put a water pump to increase the pressure of that water so that it gets lifted to your top of your building, right? So that water pump actually acts as like a gain to the water that is coming in from the corporation. So you can, on one side, the corporation water which is there, which doesn't have enough pressure in it to take it to your rooftop. So that's why you put in something in between your the kind of a your this thing, right? Or you put in a machine that will pump the water up, right? The water pump. So it's basically your amplitude, you're basically increasing the amplitude or increasing the pressure in that case to pump up the water. So same thing happens in Wi-Fi signal also. And uh, which entity is responsible for increasing the amplitude of the signal? It's basically your antenna. So when your signal is transmitted from your device, your Wi-Fi router, the antenna plays an important role in increasing the amplitude of the signal. So there are actually two types of um, gains that occur. One is the gain that the transmitter transmits in. So that is called the transmitting, means the transmitting power. So your transmitter of any Wi-Fi device is going to have certain transmitting power. Okay, that is called the active gain. That means it's the device which is the transmitter is usually installed on the PCB of your access point, and that does a transmitting at a particular power. Now you also have to understand that there is actually a restriction from the government on how much transmitting power or how much active gain you can give. Means no device that is imported in India can transmit beyond that transmitting power. Okay, that's the restriction our wireless commission puts in. Now you may ask, okay, if that is the case, then how come certain radios have bigger transmitting power? That's because they use this thing called passive gain using the antennas. Okay, so the antennas are used to increase the signal to further levels, and that is called the passive gain. Now other important thing about antennas are that the transmitter doesn't know in which direction it is going to transmit. Okay, so it will start transmitting, means it will basically, the transmitter will just push the signal in one day, means in all directions, but the antenna can take that signal. So the transmitter, when it's transmitting, it will, if that signal gets through the if it gets that signal is passed on to the coaxial cable, basically the cable that is there, and then it from there it goes to the antenna, and the antenna can focus it in particular direction. So we'll discuss about that in the next slides. So let's quickly look at different RF components. So all of you know that any Wi-Fi device needs to have a transmitter, it needs to have a receiver, it needs to have an antenna, then it needs to have connectors, or they're also called pigtails, and coaxial cables if needed. Like if your connectors are usually inside the device, coaxial cables are usually for antennas which are external to the Wi-Fi device, Wi-Fi router. So what is a transmitter? A transmitter is basically responsible for creating the RF signal. So the data you can see on the diagram on the right hand side, your motherboard or whichever your router is there, or any device that is going to generate a data, and it is going to give it to the transmitter. The transmitter generates something called an AC current, and that AC current determines the frequency of the transmission. Okay, now it's getting a little technical, but bear with me. And it is there's a concept of oscillator that is used for creating these AC signal. Now there are different modulation techniques. We'll not get into that. Means it gets very very technical if you get into the modulation techniques, what those mean and why those are there. But there is something called a modulation technique which is used, and the modulation signal is called the carrier signal, and the transmitter creates that carrier signal. Okay, now that carrier signal is usually sent to an antenna. Now the antenna could be built in on the PCB itself. Like for example, on your iPhone or your smartphones, the antenna is actually printed on your PCB itself. If you closely look at it, the antenna that is needed for connecting to Wi-Fi or any device is actually printed on the PCB itself. But in case of Wi-Fi routers, it's either a separate antenna inside the device, or you, for outdoor Wi-Fi access points, you can have an external antenna. Now that transmitter, when it creates that AC signal, which is called the carrier signal, it is sent over to the antenna for transmission. Okay, and that is done through an antenna cable. Okay, now the transmitter will also decide the power level. So whether you are transmitting the signal at 50 milliwatt or 100 watt is all decided by the transmitter. Okay, and that I told you is governed by the country where you are, as in the country has rules and regulations of how much radiation that you can give through that transmitter. Now your mobile phones also work on the same principle. The only difference is that the mobile phones transmitters are allowed to transmit at higher power, because they're paid the government the licenses for transmitting that in that frequency, whereas Wi-Fi is an open spectrum. Basically anyone can use it, so there is a restriction on how much transmit power can be given through a Wi-Fi radio. Now let's look at antennas. Now there's a lot of confusion and people are not aware of what antennas are and how they function. So the main function of antennas is to transmit and receive. Okay, and then basically there are different types of antennas. There are dipole antennas, parabolic antennas, patch panel antennas, and omnidirectional antennas. So many of you must have mostly dealt with an omnidirectional dipole antenna. Okay, the main thing is that it takes the signal which the transmitter has generated and generates a radio frequency waves. Means it creates those waves that are created. Means it is done using means the antenna has means it's again physics is involved there. I will not get into that, but that it creates what the radio frequency waves is what that antenna generates, and then it generates those radio waves in a particular fashion basically. So that is called the waveform of that antenna. So as you can see here at the bottom here, there are different types of waveforms. So if you look at this one particular pole like right here, it creates this circular pattern like this. But with a dipole, you actually create like a pattern like this, like two type balloons like this. Whereas if you use other antennas like a parabolic antenna, for example, that will generate like a very long beam like this. Okay, that means what is happening here is simple, as in this case you can realize that your signal is only concentrated. Like if you have a balloon and your balloon is exactly round in shape, then you can see that the balloon is equally inflated in all directions. But if you squeeze that balloon and take that, then you will see that it will spread in one direction like this, for example. And if you squeeze it further, it can go in this direction, and the length of that balloon or length of that signal will increase. And that's the very basic principle. That means the amount of data that is going through that, or amount of energy that is there in the signal, will remain constant. It's just that in which direction you are focusing that energy. Another example, this is another important concept because many people actually get it wrong. They don't understand the concept of what is signal and how to increase the signal. And they think that means magic will automatically happen. That doesn't happen this way. The amount of signal or amount of power that is going on through that device will remain constant. The antenna just helps you shape it in a particular direction. So classic example is like, say you have a 1 watt, you have a 1 watt bulb, and you put it at the center of the room. Now, if you put that in the center of the room, then it will radiate in all directions and you will get a light of 1 watt signal. Now, if you, on the contrary, if you put that 1 watt bulb inside a torch and you put a lens in front of that torch, what you are essentially doing is still a 1 watt signal. But since you are focusing all that energy into one direction, that the torch does, and you are amplifying the signal, on the other side you will get an effective light of, let's say, 8 watt bulb, for example, right? So when you measure the light, I mean, there is a way to measure light also, right? It's so the light for a torch, it will be more than the 1 watt light that the bulb is radiating. So same thing happens with antennas. So it's important for you to understand what is an antenna and what is its function. Now let's look at a receiver. The receiver basically gets a signal. It's very simple. And it's again, there is an antenna that is used to receive the signal. And then it converts that signal into zeros and ones, for which it uses something called a DSP, which is called digital signal processor, which is used for doing that. Okay, so again, that's very technical topic. I'll not get into that, but there is something called a DSP, which is used to convert that signal back into the original zeros and ones that were transmitted. Now, the other important thing that the receiver needs to do is has to separate out the signal from noise. Now, there is a noise. So again, it's an example that I'll give you, that if two people are talking in a quiet room, you will be able to hear each other very clearly. But if you do the same talk at a railway station, for example, or in a sabji market, for example, you will not have the same kind of you will not be able to hear each other clearly, because there's a lot of noise around you. The same thing happens in case of Wi-Fi. The more the noise around you, the signal quality, or it will be harder for the receiver to understand the signal from the noise around it. So that's where the all these good practices are important, that you should have less noise within your network as much as possible, so that you can go further distance in your for when for your where your receiver is going to be installed, right? So your receiver can be at a further distance if the noise is less. But if the noise is more in the room, then you will have to bring the receiver closer. That means you'll have to get closer to the access point in a very noisy environment. Connectors, these are basically wires that connect the transmitters to the antenna or the receivers to the antenna. And there is something called impedance. Again, it's a very technical topic, I'll not get into that, but that impedance of this should match with each other. So they basically should support the frequencies. So there are these connectors actually have certain frequencies, they support certain amount of frequencies, and you should get the right type of connectors. So if you choose a wrong connector, it will introduce a lot of loss in your signal. So many times people buy access points from us, but they connected wrong connector, and then they say that your access point doesn't work, or your access point is not transmitting in the right amount. I don't get the range that I need. But they fail to look at certain things, like, is the connector proper? Even the alignment and everything matters. As in, we have seen people misaligning the access points and then complaining that your access points don't work. So a lot of these things actually matter when you install Wi-Fi. Coaxial cables, I think I told you, these are basically longer cables that are connected from the Wi-Fi device to an external antenna, and they have thick insulation to prevent it from noise getting introduced. Now, this is a little more technical. I will not get into a lot of technical details here, but just for your information, I'll tell you. Basically, how do you measure? Like, anything that you are doing needs to be measured, right? If you can't measure it, then obviously it's of no use. So Wi-Fi signal is measured in certain units, and those units are called decibels or dBm or watts. Now, watts is basically the original measure, but it's very tricky to use watts, because the kind of power that we are talking about is like 0.000000001 watts and so on. So because it's very hard for a normal human being to do calculation in watts, the scientists out there, they came up with a unit called decibels, because the decibels are bigger numbers and they're easier to deal with. So again, I'll not get into the details, but there's a concept. Decibels are basically a relative number, means relative to something called an isotropic radiator. Okay, so they are basically a comparison between two numbers. Let me silence it because someone is making some noise here. Okay. So decibels, many of you would have dealt with it, may not be aware of it. It's a little bit of math involved. It's basically a logarithmic scale, but I'll make it a little bit simpler for you. It's basically as I told you, decibel is not an absolute measure, as in what is the absolute measure of a power that is going on from the Wi-Fi access point. But decibel is kind of a comparative number. So this is something, it's called the tens and the threes rule. So just for your information, like every 3 dB gain, like for example, if your antenna is providing you a 3 dB gain, that means it is actually doubling your power. So any antenna which is having a 3 dB gain, which is essentially doubling your power. Okay, or any 3 dB loss will basically have a half, means will reduce your power by half. So if you have a cable which is introducing a 3 dB loss, that means the power that is there at the end of that cable will be half of what is getting transmitted. Similarly, a 10 dB gain will multiply your absolute power by 10. So if you are having 1 milliwatt of power getting transmitted, and then you put a 10 dB gain, let's say 10 dB antenna, then you are basically multiplying it by 10, and it's the other way around as well. So here is an example, like an AP, an access point is transmitting at 100 milliwatt, okay, and you have a 3 dB antenna connected to it. Okay, that's a very typical scenario, because 100 milliwatt is the maximum amount of transmit power allowed for any indoor Wi-Fi access point in India. Okay, but many times people claim that they have 100 milliwatt, or means more than that, right? They even have 500 milliwatt. So the reason is basically they are increasing that power through their antennas, because that's called the effective power. Basically it's called the effective, means it's a radio EIR. So if your dB gain is 3 dB, then it is actually your 200 milliwatt is getting transmitted. So that is called, a concept is called EIRP, effective, I think, insulated radio power or something. That's a full form of it. So that essentially gives you 200 milliwatt because you are connected an antenna. Now an example of a loss, that your AP is transmitting at 100 milliwatt, but you put in a cable, and that cable is introducing a loss of 3 dB. That means at the end of that cable, you are only going to get 50 milliwatt of power. So again, you may connect an external antenna of 3 dB, but if your cable that you connected is of bad quality, or the connectors that are of bad quality, and they introduce a 3 dB loss in it, then you are essentially nullifying your transmission. So many people actually come to us, especially in case of outdoor environments, and they talk to us and they explain, oh, we built, there's an access point, and then we connected an external 5 dB antenna to it, but we are not getting the range. The reason is basically they fail to calculate the loss that cable might be putting in. So they might have connected a very long cable to that antenna. If they connect a very long cable, the long cable will introduce a loss which they fail to take into consideration. Noise, we discussed about it. That's called the ambient. There is always an ambient or a background noise. In fact, for those who are a little bit technically inclined, you know that in fact even the earth, when you are on the earth, there is always going to be a background radio noise, which is actually coming from the Big Bang. Basically, it's kind of from the space. There's always going to be some radio energy somewhere in this thing. So there's always going to be radio noise in the background. Um, there are other devices like the microwave, Bluetooth devices, your cordless phones, and other neighboring points. They will all introduce noise. So the noise can come from different mechanisms. One is that the atmosphere will give you a noise. Then your non Wi-Fi devices like the microwave, Bluetooth devices, cordless phones, children toys, they will start introducing noise. And then the neighboring access points, like your people who are around you, they will introduce noise. So in all this noise, your Wi-Fi access point needs to work, right? So generally the noise level for 2.4 gigahertz, it's approximately minus 100 dBm. So if your signal that is received by the receiver is below 100 dBm, then the most likely the receiver will not be able to decipher the signal. In fact, anything below 90 dBm is also bad, as in anything below above 80 dBm is kind of not good for this thing. So ideally the signal should be between minus 30 to almost 75 for Wi-Fi to work correctly. So again, here is some small example about received signal and noise. So effectively, if the receiver gets minus 85 dBm and the noise is minus 100 dBm in the background, then the effective SNR, which is called the signal to noise ratio, is 15 dBm. So you can, the bigger the noise, SNR, the better for you. So a lot of people don't pay attention to this when they troubleshoot people's problems or do site surveys. So data transmission gets corrupted with low SNR. If your SNR is too low, then your data transmission will get corrupted, and there will be a lot of retransmissions that happen. So that is a little that is a networking topic. Maybe later on in our other discussions we'll talk about what are retransmissions. But with a low SNR, essentially what is happening is that you will get a lot of retransmissions and poor quality Wi-Fi signal. The other important aspect that you will find in a lot of data sheets. So many of you read data sheets, and they sometimes become quite technical, but it's important for you to understand what is there in those data sheets. There's a concept of receiver sensitivity, and a lot of companies claim that certain receiver sensitivity. So it basically means that the signal that is coming to that, the means if your Wi-Fi radio has better receiver sensitivity, that means even if the signal is very very low, your Wi-Fi router will be able to decipher it. Now please remember, the receiver sensitivity only of your Wi-Fi router doesn't matter. The receiver sensitivity of your end device also matters when you're talking about a communication between access point and your device. So many people think that, okay, they've installed a best access point, but if the devices in that neighborhood are not of good quality, or if they don't have good quality Wi-Fi on it, that will not help do in the Wi-Fi this thing in the Wi-Fi transmission. So so what essentially, even if the power level of the signal is low, that means and the receiver is able to read the signal, it is having a better sensitivity, receiver sensitivity. Okay, but you also need to understand, the higher the speed, the more the Wi-Fi receiver is prone to corruption of data, because the signal is coming very fast to it. So in that case also, the receiver sensitivity, means the reception will get lost, or there will be corruption of data. And there's a concept of RSSI value, which is used to measure the signal strength at the receiver side. So RSSI value is again for the respect. For those who are more technically inclined, this is a small example of what is called as a link budget. So people who are designing Wi-Fi networks would be kind of interested in calculating the link budget. What it means is that, here is an example. There's a transmitter, which is your Wi-Fi access point. It is connecting through different devices, your connectors, cables, to an antenna. And from that antenna, the data is getting transmitted to another antenna, and there it is again getting through the cable, through the receiver. So the diagram below actually has shown you how the signal gets reduced. So this is the transmit power, which is at the high side. So because it goes through the cable, then the signal starts degrading, means it goes lower. But your Wi-Fi antenna will increase the signal again up, and then it goes through the free air, like it goes through the air in different distances. You can see there is a drop in the signal here. And on the other side, there's another antenna now. The antenna is actually used not just for transmission, but also for receiving. So the antenna will again increase the signal strength or the signal amplitude. And then from there, it will again transmit it through the cables and other things. Again, so that will again introduce a loss. And finally, at some point, it will come to the receiver. So this is how typically the signal moves. Like it gets amplified certain places, it goes lower at certain place, and ultimately what matters is so even if you're transmitted at a very high power, if they received at a very low power, then your signal will not be read. Now we'll quickly go into, let me see how much time we have left. It's almost, we'll wrap it up in a minute, in 10-15 minutes. You have just 4 slides left. But these are also some important concepts here called antennas. So many of you use antennas, indoor, outdoor. Sometimes you buy access points with built-in antennas. But antennas are basically used for, as I told you, for amplifying the signal. So many of you would be aware that you see this kind of diagrams on the data sheets of many access points. So what are these diagrams? These diagrams are basically showing you what is called the elevation plane. So this is how a typical Wi-Fi router's Wi-Fi signal looks like. Okay, it looks like an apple. Okay, now you can cut the apple either from like this, like horizontally or vertically. So if you cut it horizontally and look from the top, this is how it will look like, which is there here on the red side, right? So this is what they show you here is how your Wi-Fi signal will be spread across that particular area using your antenna and your transmitter, in what direction and how far it will go. So this actually, if you read this, you need to understand how the radiation pattern of that particular Wi-Fi router looks like. Now there are different types of antennas. There's something called an omnidirectional antenna. There's a semi-directional antenna and highly directional antenna, and there's a sector antenna. So omnidirectional is the most commonly used antenna in the world, as in most of you will be using an omnidirectional antenna. But remember that this is like a donut. Like if you look at an antenna and if you put power through that antenna, you start radiating through that antenna, then it will look like a donut like this. Now, depending upon the type of antenna and the radiation pattern of that antenna, the donut can be squeezed. So this donut is smaller, but you start squeezing the donut, it will become longer and longer. Okay, so these, depending upon the radiation pattern, and that's when you have to look at the radiation pattern, those diagrams that are there in the data sheets, that will show you what is the radiation pattern and that how far the signal can go using this antennas. These are some examples of patch panel antennas. These are usually directional antennas. That means they radiate in one particular direction. So by doing that, what essentially you are doing is that all the energy that is there in this direction, one of this direction, like for example, you are having a patch panel antenna here, then instead of using the energy here, that energy is transmitted on this. That's how you increase the range. So in general sense, the omnidirectional antenna will have the smallest range, whereas a directional antenna will have longer range than an omnidirectional antenna. And then there are highly directional antennas, like the one that you see below here. These are called like a parabolic antenna, for example. The parabolic antenna essentially will shoot the signal in one small beam. So the reason why means, obviously you can't use parabolic antennas for Wi-Fi connectivity in your house or in your offices because it is in one direction. So because it transmits the signal in one direction, it can go a longer distance, but it can go in only one particular beam, as in you can behind that or below that or other places you will not get the signal. Same thing with sector antennas. The sector antennas, they go in a particular sector. There are usually 120 degrees sector antennas. So they will transmit the signal within that 120 degrees. So understand patterns very important. It's very important for any Wi-Fi engineer or any Wi-Fi technician to understand how these antennas actually work. Now I'll get into some quick things, as in these are more technical topic, but many of you have heard of something called a beam forming technology, right? And many means I've heard people talk about it, but very few people actually know these concepts. So beam forming is essentially what is happening is that, again, what I told you earlier, like your antenna signal can be transmitted in one direction. So rather than even if it is an omnidirectional antenna, what the new technologies have done is that when it is transmitting it is only transmitting in one particular, like if it has a particular radio, then it, for a split second, like for one nanosecond, it will only activate the transmission on one particular antenna, so that all energy that it is transmitting goes onto that antenna and it can go further. But then in next nanosecond, perhaps it will transmit on the another antenna. So it does that depending upon where the client is connected. Okay, so this is very important, because then what it does is that rather than transmitting the signal in all directions, if the access point knows that this particular user is in this particular direction, then it focuses the beam in that direction for a split second while it is transmitting to that user. so that it conserves the energy, and all that energy is used for transmitting and receiving signal in one direction. So if it is done statically, it is called static beamforming. Most access points will do it dynamically, means it will find out where your device is. Now, if this device moves from here to here, then that beam will get formed in this direction. That is called dynamic beamforming. Okay. And this is the example of the MIMO technology. So remember earlier we talked about the multipath problem. In that you have on the receiver side, if the data comes from two different, for the same signal comes at different times, then it gets confused. Now what they have done is that they created two antennas instead of one, and they have two data streams that will go simultaneously. And both these data streams, because of multipath, they will arrive at two of these antennas simultaneously. So all of a sudden, what they have done using MIMO technology is that they've doubled the transmission and the receiver. That means the speed of your Wi-Fi signal. That's what the MIMO technology. Earlier, if you, for those who are in the Wi-Fi field, if they remember that the N series router were only 150 Mbps earlier. But as soon as they introduced MIMO, they started advertising all the N series router as 300 Mbps. The reason is because they started using MIMO with two antennas in it. If you obviously increase the number of antennas and number of transmitters, you can increase it. That's the 3x3 and 4x4 technologies that people are talking about. Okay, so as that means you are simultaneously transmitting and receiving from these, and they, even if the signal comes in a shifted manner here, what happens here is that they have an intelligent DSP or a chip inside the receiver that will determine the signal properly. So they use this to reduce the multipath problem as well as increase the throughput or the speed of your connection. Now, last thing we are going to talk about is antenna mounting, and this many people get it wrong. The reason is because people are not aware of the orientation of the antenna, the alignment of the antenna, and how it needs to be mounted. So I will not have time to go through each and every technical details here, but I'll just focus on the orientation and the alignment here. Environment is also plays a very important role, as in you need to have right enclosures when you put these Wi-Fi access points, if you are putting it in a very hot environment or very cold environment. Okay, orientation means when your antenna is placed, if you place the antenna in the wrong direction, then remember that apple that we saw earlier, or that donut we saw, it will be in a wrong direction. And if it is in the wrong direction, then you will not get the coverage, or the length of the signal will not be there. And that is what happens with many people, that let's say the antenna is supposed to be mounted in the ceiling in a horizontal manner. Now, if you don't change the polarity, if you don't change the this thing of the antenna, the direction of that antenna, means you can have a horizontal polarity or a vertical polarity. If you don't change that and you put that same access point on a vertical wall, signal, but the donut that you saw is actually in the wrong direction, means it is going through the roof and into the ground rather than going across the room. So many people actually get it wrong. Even in case of a ceiling mount antenna, ceiling mount access point, the radiation pattern is below. So many people, they mount the access point on the floor or keep it on a table somewhere, and they say that why the access point is not radiating, because most of the energy that access point is radiating is in the upward direction when they put it on the floor, for example. So that access points, the patterns are designed in a manner so that they radiate based on the alignment or the orientation of that access point. Last I'm going to talk about are some accessories that come with it. Many of you might be knowing there's something called LMR cable, which is basically the cable, this kind of cable that you connect to the access points to the antennas. They again introduce a signal loss. Then there are different types of connectors. You must have seen them on your access points. Then there are splitters. That means the same radio channel signal can be split into two. Maybe you connect it to two different antennas. Something called lightning arresters. If you're mounting the access points on a pole on a top of a building, then you will get struck by lightning, because anything on the top of the building will get struck. If you must have seen that a lot of mobile towers actually have special circuits to reduce the lightning. They get struck by lightning. So in order to protect the equipment, you need to have lightning arresters, they're called. So with that, I will come to the end of the presentation. I hope you liked it. I know it was quite technical, but I thought I would have, we've given you some insights. This is part of our Wi-Fi Soft training program. Basically, we are creating a training module for our partners and our customers. So this is part of it, which gives you a lot of insights into this technology. So feel free to ask any questions. I will now allow you to unmute yourself. If you have any questions, feel free to share it with us.
Yeah, I think so. There is a question from Manish sir.